There's a couple of things that we need to know. First, the shutoff valve. And some just turn like 90 degrees or 45 degrees, and others you have to continue turning. This one we have to continue turning to shut off first, because we'll need to empty the tank. That'll be step one. So we're shutting off the shutoff valve, and it will shut off the water into the tank. And that's the supply line going into the tank. And you see here there are actual wing nuts. So way back when, you had to use pliers or brute force. Now there's wing nuts, so we probably won't even need any tools. Probably. So those are the two things we need to do. So this is going to go inside the tank. So we need to empty the tank first, and then we will replace these parts inside the tank. Okay, so I have a bowl for some water. Put a towel down, just in case. We already shut off the shutoff valve. So first, I'm going to loosen this. And notice the valve is turning. So I'll just need to hold the valve while I'm doing that. I just push down a little bit on the valve. And now it's not turning. So, and again, I'll show you, but these have wing nuts on them. So you don't even need a tool. Okay? And then all we need to do now is reconnect the supply valve. You always want to make sure that you don't have any leaks. And then the water supply line again. Don't over tighten, but of course you want to tighten enough, and then you'll see when you turn the water on if there's any leak. So as I put the supply line back on and tightened it, you could hear some clicking. It actually broke right there. This snapped in half. This is just a piece of plastic. So pretty unusual to have that happen. So we need to replace this supply line. So I'm just going to take that off. Because this shutoff valve is off, it should not leak at all. So I'm just going to try a crescent wrench here first. See if I can loosen it. I don't want to torque on it too much because a lot of times these are very dainty. As you can see, the thing's coming out of the wall. A lot of times they've been in place for a long time. So you just don't want to put too much pressure on them, or you may end up needing this entire new shutoff valve. And then you're talking about shutting the water off of the house. So all I'm doing is taking off this very small supply line that supplies water to the toilet.
What are you using to take it off?
I'm using a crescent wrench, or whatever its generic term is, adjustable locking wrench, probably. You know, where you can adjust the size. I could also just be using a pair of pliers at this point because I've already gotten the tough part. You don't want to use pliers usually because you can strip the nut as you're taking it off. So now I'm able to just use my fingers. And this could have a little bit of water that'll come out. I always like to have a towel and or a little bowl to help. So that is off. And then this is a standard. So this will be called a toilet supply line. The only difference is there are multiple lengths. So that length is going to be approximately one foot long. So because it's bent, that is probably a 1 foot long supply line for a toilet. So this will be a standard. So we're going to go to a local home improvement place, get this, put that back on, and then turn the water back on, and we will be good to go. But here's just an example of some things that may have happened. So I just needed a pair of pliers or a crescent wrench. We went to the store, got a new 12-inch, and it's literally just a 12-inch toilet supply line, standard. They come in many different lengths, but this was a 12-inch supply line, so we got a 12-inch. And it took so long that and now I'm wearing my favorite Buc-ee's shirt from Fort Worth, Texas. It was a gift from some super cool people when we moved. So I am going to put this on. Once this is on, then we'll just open the shutoff valve, and it should then fill up the tank, and we should be good to go. The important thing is, have your hands dry so that you know if there's any leaks. That's the best way to find out if there's a leak. Just have your hands dry, turn everything on. You don't have to full blast everything, but you can just turn it on slowly. And as long as your hands are dry, you just put your hands up underneath there and you can tell. Okay, now first, let's get this attached to the shutoff valve. Again, with anything like this, you just don't want to over tighten. I am probably just going to use a pair of pliers. Just be careful not to strip anything. Just using the pliers because it's easier. Not going to over tighten. I can't tighten it with my hand, so let's just say that's pretty tight. And then you can bend these a little bit. So now we'll go to the tank. And again, these are just a nice wing nut. Actually, nuts now with wings all over them. Again, just try not to over tighten. I'm not going to use a pair of pliers or a wrench on this yet. I'm just going to see if everything's fine first. Okay, let's try it. So my hands are dry. Now let's turn it on to see if there's any leaks here or here. That was the water flowing into the tank. And I barely have it on. Turn it on more. My hands are dry, so I'm just gonna put them up here. No moisture at all. And you'll feel cold. That's why I like to have my hands dry, because sometimes the cold will fool you and you'll think it's moisture. So my hands are still dry. So I think we're good. Shouldn't be any leaks. I'm gonna go full open. I'm just going to dry it off everything so I know. And there are times if, as I said, if this leaks, you may need a whole new shutoff valve, and then you just have to shut off the water to the entire house, replace this entire shutoff valve. No moisture anywhere. Okay, so let's go back up to the tank. And notice it is filling through the new tube. And again, we just had to replace the 12-inch toilet supply line because that piece broke just from age. So sometimes you run into things like that, but it's that simple. So very simple project. Very, very easy to do. Hope that helps. And thank you and have fun.